Hello everyone, and welcome to the LOL Esports Weekly Roundup, Episode 1. Today, I'm going to be talking about playoffs, semifinals for Europe, North America, and I'm also going to be throwing in a little section at the end about EDG choking in playoffs. So, to get started, we're going to talk about the two NA matchups, starting with CLG versus Team Impulse. Now, CLG, they finally secured a second seed, good for them. Impulse, they looked great. They smashed Dignitas. But the thing about their games with Dignitas is they just ran the same style. Dignitas ran the same style, and they beat them in that way. So they weren't really experimenting. They weren't really getting to try new things. And CLG kind of took advantage of that. Team Impulse ran the same comps, Protect Apollo. And it was all on Apollo's shoulders. Like, they put Gate on Lulu most games. And they just put Rush to, get Vision and be Rush. But Apollo, they put all their faith in Apollo, and it was very hard because, especially in Game 1, how they lost, I believe, is when they tried to dive tower, and Zion Spartan teleported right behind Apollo. Apollo walked through the tower, and Zion Spartan just shut him down. And I think that was how Impulse lost the first game, and it was very close, though. And CLG, they learned how to play from behind, because everyone's been giving them, oh, you can't play from behind. What happens when you're behind? You're going to lose all your games. When they were talking about, oh, Liquid's so good early game. But I'm going to be talking about Team Liquid, what happened with them later. But CLG, and especially Xmithy, they stepped up. Xmithy won team fights for them with his Echo stuns. And he jumped around, pressuring targets, and that's how they won the first two games. And the third game, they just would take little picks and use that leads to pull dragons, barons, and towers and just increase their gold lead so they could win. Next matchup is TSM versus Team Liquid. TSM, they should have lost the first game, I'll be honest. And Liquid was looking so good coming into this. They were first seed. They finally did it. The forever fourth curse was broken, or so they thought. So, Team Liquid were taking Baron. They were gonna get it. And I Will Dominate smited a fraction too early, because the Wild Turtle Rocket stole it, of course. Everyone was like, oh, Turtle, he's a god. But no, it was more of I Will Dominate messing up. And I don't know. But the next thing, that first game was so close, and it was just that one play that did it. But Team Liquid should have put someone on Turtle, had Quas pressure him, or something, because they shouldn't have let that happen. The second game was back and forth fighting, but it only took TSM to take one good fight and to take it. And Team Liquid were running the same comp for both games. They were pretty much just running that. And the next game, they ran Vayne and Azir, and that just crushed TSM. And they won that game. And because they switched up their style, they were like, okay, we lost that game. What can we do? We have to switch things up. And so they did. But they went back to the same comp for Game 4 and lost it. So that's pretty much how TSM won. They just out-comped, out-skilled them. So, over in EU, we have Fnatic versus the Unicorns of Love. Fnatic. Fnatic was 18-0. They were undefeated in the regular season. Could they go 21-0? Everyone's, raving about that. And yes, they could. They crushed them. I mean, yeah. I'm not a huge Fnatic supporter, but they did play incredibly well. And Fnatic, with this win, they auto-qualified for Worlds, and so did TSM. But what I'm thinking about Fnatic is in the second game, when they had that failed play down bottom lane, and Power of Evil cleaned up 2 or 3 kills, I think, that showed a little weakness in Fnatic's armor, and just picking some unfavorable team fights. But Fnatic has shown from games in week 8 with H2K and Origin that they can play from behind. So that's good. And I mean, that's just pretty much all it was with the Fnatic game. They just completely destroyed the Unicorns. And then it wasn't much different for this third place, for the second versus third match. Origin versus H2K. Oh, H2K. They're going to be forever third. That's the H2K curse. Because they've gotten third for a while now. And they probably will this split. Or H2K would lose one fight in all of these games. They would lose one fight. And then they would go and fight again and again and again. And they'd keep losing. And when I was watching these games, I was like, they should stop fighting, slow things down, try to get farm, take objectives, try to counter jungle even. But they didn't. They kept fighting. And the one game in Game 3 where they slowed things down, same with Team Liquid, they switched up styles and H2K slowed things down. They stopped the bleeding. And that's how they won their game. But they did the same thing for the fourth game, losing it. So, I mean, props to Origin. The fact, Origin, I mean, they're the new team, so they don't have many championship points, so winning this would be crucial, because if not, they're probably going to get top seed at the regional qualifier. But Fnatic, TSM, and LGD over in China all got in to Worlds auto-qualified. Because TSM, if CLG beat them, oh yeah. And the El Clasico, CLG versus TSM, hype, yeah. That's what's going to happen. And then my final part of this weekly roundup is going to be about EDG. EDG. Everyone was like, EDG's the best team in the world. SKT's shown weakness. EDG hasn't. Everyone's like, oh my god, they beat SKT in a best of 5 at MSI. In their 7 games of playoffs, they went 1-6. They were 3-0'd by LGD. Because Pawn was playing a great series, but everyone else wasn't. Clearlove wasn't. No one was. I mean, Clearlove's their jungler. Like, he's the jungler in China. So, they just choked there. And then when they played Invictus, they also lost 3-1. And they kind of did the same thing they did with the LGD series. And, I mean, EDG can still go to Worlds, but it's not going to be in the same seed as they thought they were. It's not going to be number 1. And that's going to be probably LGD. Probably. And that's about all for the weekly roundup. That's about it. See you next week as I round up finals for LPL, NA, EU, and I will also talk about the gauntlet of Korea. Bye.